Hello fourth graders, welcome back to another writing lesson. Today we are going to be learning about how to create a story arc for your stories. Last week we got to develop our characters in our stories where we wrote about external and internal features about them, and we also spent some time writing about their struggles and motivations. Now that you've developed your character, it's really important that you start creating a story arc. This is going to be a way for us to organize our ideas and make sure that we think of different types of story arcs that might be possible for our story later on. Writers use story arcs to help plan their writing, so that way they kind of zoom out of the scenes that they were writing and really look at the big picture and what's happening. Just like how you would watch a movie, instead of zooming into one scene, you're zooming out and looking at the big picture, what is happening in the movie. So in my story, we all got to meet my character Karina, who is a new student at a new school. She has different struggles and motivations. All of those details are going to help me plan out the plot of my story. For all of my Harry Potter fans, my Warriors fans, just like how those authors also thought about a story arc before they developed their story. So we are going to be practicing that today. So go ahead and grab your notebook and your pen and let's get started. So last week we practiced writing different scenes for our characters and making sure that we add lots of different details to describe what's happening and really showing how our character is feeling and what they are doing in our story. I'm going to turn to a fresh page and write my story arcs. And I'm going to underline that and put today's date. Okay, so when we first start, a story arc is just like a mountain. So I'm gonna draw a little mountain like this. And I like to break up my mountain into numbers so that way I know how to keep track of what part of my story goes where. So at the bottom of our mountain, I'm gonna label. I numbered each part of my story arc, and in the beginning, one of the scenes that I wrote about Karina, and it's about her when she is experiencing her first day of school. Let's say that she's first getting ready for school, so of school. I'm just writing quick notes to myself so that way I know. And then the problem is that she's really nervous. So I'm gonna add that in here too. So she's getting ready for school and she's at the mirror. She's trying to talk to herself in the mirror. And I'm trying to imagine what could happen or what could go wrong on the first day of school. The second thing that happens is that she arrives at school and she can't find her classroom. Maybe she gets lost in the school. Karina, she's getting ready for school. She arrives at school. She gets lost. For number 3 here, I'm going to list out some details about what could happen next in my story. She gets lost. She can't find her classroom. If she's sitting by herself at lunch, she can't really make any friends. Those are just some things that could go wrong on the first day of school, and I'm going to add that to my story arc. And then the fourth, now I'm going to think about how my character is going to get out of that problem. Maybe a teacher checks in. Let's review our first story arc idea. Karina's getting ready for the first day of school in the morning. She arrives at school and then she runs into some issues at school. She gets lost, she's sitting by herself at lunch, she's having a hard time introducing herself, making friends, and maybe a teacher checks in on her at lunch because she's noticing that she's sitting by herself. And I don't know exactly what they're going to say to each other yet, but I'm not going to worry about that. I just wanted to make sure that I added a short detail to remind myself later to write about that in my draft. The last thing that can happen is that she'll feel better after talking to the teacher. She'll feel brave enough to introduce herself, to talk to other students. So this is an example of one story arc. I'm going to think of another one because I don't know for sure if I like this one just yet. So I'm going to go to the bottom of my page and I'm going to draw another story arc like that. So I want you to take a look at some of the details and notes that I wrote about my story. And as I'm going up my arc, it's going in an upward motion, and this is going to be the buildup of my story. And then in the middle of my story, that's where a lot of the problems that are coming up for my character, I'm going to list out some things that can go wrong and think about and really imagine like how I can make the problem bigger. And then as I go down my arc, this is when we are, and when we go down my arc, this is when you can start to think about your solution or ending to your story. For my next example, this time I want to change the beginning. So maybe it's not the first day of school anymore. Maybe Karina's already in her first week of school. So maybe I'm going to think about the time and place where Karina is at. So writing is her favorite subject because she likes to write a lot of different stories. So maybe the beginning of my story can be that she's already in her new school. It's already the first week. The first thing that's happening is Karina's in class right now. She's doing writing. She's still really new to the school. And then the second thing that happens is that the class gets to choose their writing partners. And I'm trying to think of some things that can go wrong here for Karina since she's new and she's shy. She's too shy to ask to be partners with someone. And then and then the next thing that happens is that everyone has a partner. The next thing that can happen is maybe the teacher has her join another group. And as I'm writing this, I'm always going back to the beginning and retelling what I wrote down to see if it makes sense, to see if I like it. Sometimes I might go back and I might tweak it a little bit. I don't know for sure if I'm going to choose this arc or this arc to be my story. So writers, remember that when you are writing your arc for your story, you start with your main character, include a setting, and then explain a problem that might happen to them. And then think about what ways you can make this problem even bigger. That's going to be your climax. And this is usually the most exciting part of your story. And then you're going to think about a solution and your ending to your story.